Steve Beauchamp, the head coach of the Royals women's basketball team, joins us. Steve, how you holding up through everything, and how's the team?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, it's a trying time for sure. I mean, I think everybody is, got a little bit of COVID exhaustion, and but the team itself, I think is, we're managing pretty good. I think everybody realizes that the practices and the things that we're able to do is their chance to kind of get out of their apartments, their houses, wherever they might be, and kind of socialize with people they know and like, and get some exercise in, and kind of get away from the stress of school and just all of the other kind of non-social things that happen in the environment that we're in right now.
So you've been able to get on the floor, and some players have been able to get onto the floor and shoot around?
Yeah, so after Christmas, we came back phase one. So basically just skills at a hoop, two people to a hoop.
Right.
And now we've been able to go to phase two. So that's more, again, small groups of 3, groups of 4. You're able to kind of pass the basketball, do that sort of stuff. But nothing in terms of kind of the competition side where you're able to get into kind of 5-on-5. That we need to get to phase 3 for that. And the latest public health order hasn't changed. So we've been staying in phase 2. Yeah.
How do you do that as a coach? I mean, you're so used to, at least at this time of the year, actually coaching games. So for you, how have you been able to change your mentality and really continue to focus on the team?
Yeah, I mean, I'm ever the optimist, I guess. So, I'm hoping that at some point later this semester, there's going to be an opportunity for some scrimmages. There's going to be an opportunity to perhaps have a PACWEST Lower Mainland tournament or something where we can play some of the other local teams in a weekend event. And that I know is kind of what's on the drawing board as to what they'd like to happen. So that's kind of the carrot for everybody. No doubt as a coach, I've certainly had to become more creative in terms of some of the stuff that we're doing, because, you have some drills that are great for a week, but then after those drills are going, you need something else to kind of remotivate them, inspire them, give them something else to learn, that sort of stuff. So I've certainly spent a little bit of time online and, stealing drills from other coaches and all that sort of stuff for sure.
Could you play tomorrow? If Dr. Henry said, okay, let's play, could you play tomorrow, do you think?
I mean, we would play. Who we would be a huge question. I mean, I think that's no doubt probably I don't know if you want to call it a frustration. It's just, it's kind of the reality of, not being able to play competitively where you're playing against defense. We'd need a week of at least being able to go 5-on-5 in our practice. And then from there, I think it would be great to play against somebody else just to see where you stand, whether you get beat by 40 or whatever. How do you compete? Because I think the players really need that feedback for them to kind of say, oh my gosh, this is a huge eye opener, because they're tired of us sort of saying, guys, we got to work way harder than this, or, this is not going to work against, the top teams in our conference and that sort of stuff, right? They need that instant feedback by playing somebody.
How are the players doing? Their mental state anyway, not being able to play a game. And yes, you mentioned there's practices and drills and that kind of stuff, but without playing the game, how are they doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it varies. For them, I think that kind of that hope at the end of the semester that maybe there's going to be a few games here is enticing. But there's no doubt that, I mean, we talk about kind of their mental health and where they're at every practice. We have a little post-practice session afterwards. Some of the protocols that we have to follow right now, you kind of have a green room before practice, you have a green room after practice, so that teams can kind of rotate into the gym, and there's the cleansing and all that sort of stuff, right? So because of that, I will say that I'm able to kind of communicate with them a little bit more, and we talk about those types of issues. The school's been great in making sure that there's lots of resources available to them kind of from a mental health perspective. But it's a challenge. You definitely have players at times where it's just, hey, this is just too overwhelming for me. I need the day off. And and we're totally supportive of that. We understand that it's, you know, that's the reality that we're in, right? But no doubt some players handle it better than others. Some just, you know, they just want to be in the gym. They just really want to, they really need that outlet. Others, you can tell it's wearing on them, that it's like, you know, I need to play somebody, right? And so you have to balance both of those.
How's your recruiting going? Would this be a time of the year where you would get to some high school games and you would look at some of the class that's coming up? How does that work?
Yeah, no, recruiting's been a real interesting year this year for sure. Yeah, absolutely right. You know, we would have a list of some players that we would have thought about early on, and then, you know, and then getting out to other games as you hear about other players that potentially, you know, would be candidates. This year, more than any other year, I've seen a lot of proactiveness on potential recruits. So we received way more emails from players saying, "Hey, I'm interested in your program. I want to play post-secondary basketball." You know, the hardest part is game film and stuff, right? Because the game film you're getting from these kids is grade 11, and we all know how the development from a grade 11 to a grade 12, and you think about that maturing process, and how, you know, the leadership roles that they take on in grade 12 and those sorts of things. And so you really feel for the grade 12s this year, because they're just not able to showcase any of that and have that development.
Yeah.
So, you know, hats off to the high school coaches that are out there, and the club coaches who have been kind of instructing, I think, their players to say, hey, they're not going to get to see you. You know, there's some schools that you're interested in. Send them who you are. You know, give a little profile about yourself. So we have received a bit of that. And then I guess the other recruiting side of it is, you know, I'm reaching out to a lot more youth sport teams and stuff like that, because I think with nobody losing eligibility this year, you're going to have a little bit of a, I don't know what the word is, maybe a backlog, right? So maybe you would have had some players that would have been leaving, you know, senior years and stuff like that now are staying an extra year. How many spots are really open for players on other teams? So I've certainly tried to connect with youth sport teams as well, just to kind of say, you know, do you have players that potentially you were looking at recruiting that maybe now it makes more sense to come play at Douglas for a couple of years and then maybe transfer to your institution or whatever it might be, right?
As a coach, does that mean you have to work harder a little bit because you have all these other avenues now and all these players and different ways of trying to attract someone, or do you have to work harder?
Yeah, it's the recruiting process has been, a way different. You know, it's not as simple just to go out and watch a couple of games, go, yeah, I really like that kid. Now you're trying to assess players, and again, depending upon who they're playing against, you know, wow, this player looks really good, but then you're going, well, how would they do against, you know, Cass or Jessica or Calais or something like that? Like, how do they fit in with our team? So the other challenge is that we can't bring any of these kids in for workouts. And that's, again, just because of the COVID protocols, right? Like, you'd love to be able to get some of these high school kids in just to say, hey, come in and just work out with the coaches and that sort of stuff, right? And we just haven't got approval for that yet. So we're hopeful that will eventually change. So maybe, you know, what I envision with the recruiting process is that it's probably going to take longer. It's, you know, we're not going to be, we've signed a few kids, don't get me wrong, but it's going to take longer to say, hey, you know what, we're really interested in you. You've come out, we've worked you out, and yeah, you'd be a really good fit for our program. Right now, you're kind of having to tell kids, you know, we think there might be an opportunity, but we don't want to lead you, you know, to say, hey, we want you, or that you're going to make the team, when in fact that's not the case, right? So we're pretty upfront in our recruiting to make sure kids really know where they stand.
I want to ask you about one of the positive things that I guess you could call it a positive spin on one of the tournaments that you host. You did it virtually. Tell me a bit about that and how you were able to accomplish that.
Yeah, so prior to coming to Douglas, I coached at Holy Cross, and my middle daughter, Tessa, she passed away from brain cancer 9 years ago. And so in her honor, the following year, we started what was called Tessas Tournament. And it was a fundraiser for us because we set up a foundation, a charitable foundation in her name. And so we've been holding that tournament for 8 years. And obviously with COVID this year, you know, we typically would have 40 teams from across the province that would come to that tournament. And that it's pretty unique in that it's grade 8, junior, and senior girls. So it's a tournament. We hold it at various schools, Holy Cross being kind of the main one, but various schools in Surrey, and every, you know, showcase the basketball talent in the province. And so unfortunately we couldn't do it this year. So we still wanted to kind of create something that you know, kept the Tessas Tournament out there in the basketball forum, and also you know, allowed for something for teams to get excited about, because everybody's struggling right now to do anything. So we came up with the idea of kind of a virtual tournament, and to be honest, it was just kind of brainstorming at various times, but basically we added what we call like contests into the tournament. So the main part of the tournament was a 3-point contest. So all grades, you submitted 3-point, we gave them kind of a format. They submitted the 3-point contest, and we needed 3 or 4 videos from each team. And then randomly we created a draw, and then randomly we would choose the video as you would play against each other. And so then we had a split screen. We'd show the 2 videos going head to head, and then the winners. And then from there, the winners would advance, and you'd have different winners of each division. So that was the main component of the event, and that happened on Saturday, last Saturday. Leading up to the event, we also had trick shots and skills shots. And so these we asked players to submit, and I tell you, there were some unbelievable skill and trick shots that were shown, and it was so much fun. And this, we basically had them, we kind of put them head to head, you know, like one against another, and then we had online voting. And so various teams and players and supporters would all vote for their favorite ones. And again, we just kind of, you know, you'd go from 16 down to 8 and just kind of move it on through the week. And that was the lead up to the event itself. And that was, again, we just had so much positive response from that, and it was a lot of fun. And what was kind of neat was to kind of help teams, you know, we had a lot of like, you know, are there any rules for the trick shots? Like, what do I got to do? And so I actually got my Douglas players to show the 3-point contest, what it looks like in a format, and then also provide some ball handling and some trick shots and that sort of stuff. And I sent those out to all the coaches, just saying, hey, here's some ideas from my team. But to be honest, the trick shots and stuff that we got from the high school kids was way better than the stuff my players did. It was so much fun. And I have to say, my players too had a blast watching all the different shots and all that sort of stuff that kids came up with. Yeah, the creativity was really, really cool.
I think once COVID is over and you continue to have the tournament on the floor, this has got to be some sort of component of it.
You know, it's funny you say that, because certainly, you know, the rest of the directors on the foundation is certainly something we're talking about, going, wow, this actually, you know, might lead to another element that we do leading up again to the event that could be a lot of fun. So maybe some goods come out of this, right? I do have to say, the other really neat thing about our foundation is that we give out over $12,000 in scholarships to grade 12s in the province every year.
Wow.
And so this tournament, we actually hand out 4 $1,000 scholarships. And that was kind of the end result of the tournament on the Saturday. And so 4 different grade 12 students all receive scholarships. And this is for their post-secondary education. So it's one of the components of the foundation we're pretty proud of.
Well, absolutely. So kudos to you, because yeah, that is great. And the online component is fantastic. And able to do this during a pandemic is, I mean, hats off to you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Listen, thanks so much for doing this. I'm hoping, I share your optimism that we'll see some games on the floor sometime before the semester's out. So Steve, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Thanks again, Ryan.